Hi everyone, it's Rich Schefren here, and I have Pete Williams, and this has been in the making for literally months.
Absolutely.
Almost, I don't know if it's been a year, but
close to it, I'd say.
Close to it.
Absolutely.
And I want to share with everyone right now why I have been on a desperate pursuit for years to find really Pete, but I didn't know that it was Pete. I was just looking for this person. And when I first got involved in internet marketing, one of the things I noticed is that no one was being strategic. No one was really thinking through how do they get maximum leverage? How do they figure out what they're good at and then build a business around that so that they can create value, so that they have an easy way to deliver outstanding value to their customers, their clients, so that they actually can build a business. In order to do that, you have to think everything through before getting started. What niche you're going to be in? Is it a good match for you? Where's the sweet spot in your niche? What are you going to offer that creates value? And all of that thinking, for many people, takes a considerable amount of time. And because of that, I always felt like the strategic approach was at a loss, in the sense that people who took this approach might not get any instant win, right? Like, you know, it's kind of like when people first got interested in Twitter. They could have this like sense of gratification because they got like 500 like followers. Those 500 followers might never buy anything, but they felt like they were accomplishing something. And when you're strategic, you don't get that.
There's no instant feedback.
Exactly. And so I've been on the lookout ever since I started to find someone that could take the tactics of internet marketing and simplify them, to streamline them, and to really identify the shortcuts so that you could be strategic, and then once you have your strategy in place, immediately jump in and begin making money and do what you love. And it wasn't until I met you, and we're going to tell the story of how we met in a little bit, but it wasn't until I met Pete that I really had found the chocolate to my peanut butter, the missing ingredient. You said you liked that, so I wanted to say it. It wasn't until this, and that's why I so desperately wanted to share it with every single client that we've ever had. Because as a client of mine, you have at least endorsed through your wallet that you want to be strategic, that you realize there's value in understanding what your end game is, and then figuring out what's the easiest, fastest, most certain way to get that outcome. But along those lines, if you don't do the right tactics, if you don't execute them the right way, you tend to get stuck. And so the reason why Pete is here right now, the reason why we're doing this web stream in our office, is because I believe that once you have what Pete is going to share with you tonight, you will be in a place where it's going to be very, very difficult to fail. And all of this is in exact alignment with this concept. And the concept is this, is that you right now are spending way too much time doing certain tactics, if you're even doing them. That odds are is that because they take the time that they take, because they might not be as simplified as they can be, that you might not even be doing them. You know that deep down, if you did them, your business would grow. If you did them consistently, your business would grow even more, right?
Absolutely.
But you're not. Or you're not doing it as consistently as you could, or you're in front of your computer 24/7, or at least it feels that way. And we want to show you a way, and this is Pete's teachings, that give you a way of getting it all done in a matter of minutes. And that might be 60 minutes, 90 minutes, what have you, but it's just taking what seems like 20 hours of work and reducing it down to 90 minutes of work.
Absolutely.
And so here's the final thing that I want to share with you, and then I want to hand it off to you so you can just give people even an added context of what they're going to be learning.
Sure.
But when I first got online, one of the things that I felt was very different from online than offline was that in my offline businesses, when I went to bed every night and put my head on the pillow, I felt that I had done everything that I could do, or that I had my team do everything that could be done to grow my business. When I got online, that changed, and as the number of angles, the number of channels, the number of marketing opportunities exist. What has happened is that the majority of people, myself included, we hit our head on the pillow thinking about all the other things that we could have done that day. And that sucks, especially when you're not making the kind of money you want to make. Yep. If you're going to bed thinking about all the things you could have done to make more, it's not a recipe for a good night's sleep.
Not at all.
So what we're going to show you is a way so that when your head hits the pillow, you've had everything done. And not only that, you're going to be more efficient with the things that you're already doing, and you're also going to be making sure that you're doing the right things. Hi everyone, Rich Schefren here with Pete Williams.
Hi.
And what you just saw was the first unveiling of Profit Hacks. You see, we did a private live stream for our high-end clients, primarily because we've heard for far too long that far too many of them, whether they're raw rookies or seasoned veterans, were overloaded, overwhelmed, confused, uncertain, and primarily frustrated. Frustrated with the fact that when their head hit the pillow at night, they knew they could be doing more. Yeah. And as I said, that is not a good feeling to have when you're not happy with the money you're making, with the progress you're making, or the growth of your business. And this problem is only getting worse. And it's getting worse because as more and more money is being made online, there's more competition. Yeah. And more competition drives this need to be in more places, to do more things, to have more mediums as far as audio, video, and all these things. Yep. And it's just so much to do to get done, to make that money, to grow that business, and it's only, like I said, getting worse.
And you wrote about this in your manifesto a while ago.
Yeah, I wrote about it 7 years ago. And back then, I was telling the internet marketing world, you needed to be strategic. And that was enough. You could whittle it down to just a few things, and if you did them well enough, you could actually grow a business, right? Yeah. When I wrote that report, all I needed to do was write that report. Nowadays, if that was all that was there and there was not any videos on YouTube, I wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't on all these other places, people would be, well, who is this guy? Is he for real, right? So now you need to have all these things. And I think we did a good job of explaining it on that same live stream for clients, so let's have a look. All right, so if you're looking at the screen right now, this is the infamous U diagram. And I can tell you that I've had graphics on the front of every report that I've ever written. But this graphic alone has made me more money than any graphic that I've ever created. Now, it's not the graphic that I have spent the most time on. It's certainly not the graphic that I think is the most intelligent.
Did you pick the pink color?
No, what I did was that I had a PowerPoint person who was working for me at the time, and I had to create a presentation, and I told them what I wanted. I said, like, I want to show people a example of all the things that they need to do, and here's the list. And I want it to feel somewhat overwhelming. I want people to see the ridiculousness of their situation.
Definitely overwhelming.
Yeah. The truth is, though, is that this was done in 2006. So as you look at it, I really want you to think about what has been added to internet marketing since 2006. That there was no social media then.
That's the first thing I saw.
Blogging was just like, it was the beginnings, right? There was no iTunes, there was no podcasting, there was no
YouTube videos.
Yeah, nothing. It wasn't a big thing. So there were all these things that are currently not even on that diagram. And not only that, but that the overall competitive environment has gotten a lot more complex, right? So back when I created the U diagram, my argument was, if you're strategic, you don't have to do all those things first of all. The things you have to do, you should create systems for. And that you should figure out what your time's worth, so you figure out what you should be doing on that and what you shouldn't be doing on that.
Yep.
But it was my belief back then that you didn't need to do 15 different ways of marketing. You just needed to do one way and excel at that, right?
Really well.
And that was my experience, because at that time I was writing reports. Yep. And every report made me millions of dollars, right? Some made me 8 figures, the majority made me 7 figures. But I got really good at that, right? Today is a different day.
Yeah, different beast.
Yeah, and there is so much more competition that you have to do. You have to have a presence on Facebook.
Have to be in Facebook, have to be in Twitter, have to be doing YouTube, have to be blogging, podcasting's great.
Or you're suspect,
yep.
Right? And so then the question is, how can you do all that? how can you get it all done in a way where you don't feel like pulling out your hair, crawling under your desk, and assuming the fetal position, right? And so the way you do that is that you figure out shortcuts. You figure out ways where you can create one thing, and that one thing explodes onto the U diagram and covers 20 things, right? So that U diagram could be compressed to 4 or 5 elements, right, that you're doing. And then others, people that are being paid a lot less than what you want to make per hour, are taking those things and filling out the rest of the diagram. And so I wanted to put that up there primarily because as a client of mine, I would imagine that you've seen the U diagram and that it probably resonated with you in a way that called out to you that that's the frustration that I'm feeling. And back in 2006, back to 2009, 2010, all you needed to do was be strategic to overcome that. It's my belief now that you have to be more than strategic. You not only have to be strategic, but you have to be strategic in the way that you approach the tactics that you use to run the engine of your business. So, anything you want to add to that?
I was going to say, we're on that strategery, we'll make up a word tonight. On the strategery of that, if you don't have some sort of plan, then when you're with Twitter or YouTube, you kind of get lost. And it's that coming back to the overwhelm thing again, or unclear of how to do that. So you have that strategy set in place, then you know exactly how to actually implement that, have the tactics to really push that as far as you need to go to make the money you need to make.
All right, so I think there's a new U diagram that they made. Is that correct, guys? There's a new U diagram? So that's it. And it can be as simple as that. You create content, you figure out basically the ways that you want that content consumed, you repurpose that content in multiple different channels, and then you use outsourcing to really cover so many of the areas. And this is what I challenged Pete to demonstrate for the entire world last week on a 6-hour web stream, showing how you can take that concept, those 4 different areas, and break them down to actually show you exactly how Pete can do it all. Grow a business, do a week's worth of work in just 6 hours, which actually was less than 6 hours, it was only 4 hours. And here's a little bit more detail about that from last week's web stream. So we have this flipboard over here, and I'm going to want to move over to this flipboard for a second, and I think we'll kind of put it in 2, right? And you have quite a few businesses, but what we really are going to focus on today is
online stuff.
The online business, just like many people out there have an online business. So if we were to say that like this is your online business, whether it's your business or their business, right? This is the online biz. And you know, that's your website, right? Now, a website by itself is rather like a lonely place, right? Like there's not much action just by putting up a website. You got to do a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
To make sales, to make things happen. And not only do you have to do a lot of stuff to make things happen, but if you do it the right way, and you do the right things, and you do it consistently enough, you build momentum, right? Like the stuff that you do this week will help you this week, but it also helps you next week, and the following week, and the following week. And then if the following week you're also doing more,
it just grows, doesn't it?
It grows, and so you build this exponential amount of momentum that really carries your business forward, that really ultimately has it, everything that you do stack upon itself, so that over time, your business creates this incredible momentum that you'd actually have to work against, right, to slow it down. And so in order to do that, we're going to show a bunch of different tactics, right, and how you've kind of bridged them all together so that anyone could do the same.
Absolutely.
Right? So why don't you just like, we'll talk about some of the ways, right, that we're going to cover that you can do to promote your online business the way you promote your online business.
Sounds good.
All right, so what should we say is first here?
Well, obviously, you know, people know about traffic generation. So things like, you know, YouTube is a great way to actually drive traffic to a website. So putting out YouTube videos. Obviously, blogging's, you know, I guess a real core element that everyone sort of gets taught to do is actually consistently blog on your website, because the more you blog.
And what about guest blogging?
Guest blogging, yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. So getting your articles featured on other people's blogs and their platform and get in front of their audiences. Backlinking for SEO, that's a big thing that people need to do, obviously, to grow their business, is, you know, doing the SEO and getting backlinks regularly. And guest blogging is one way of doing that. But
press releases?
Press releases, absolutely. Podcasting, that's another thing that a lot of people have to be or suggested to do. You know, if you're regularly podcasting, you're generating traffic and hitting people in different modalities and getting a wider audience. I guess product creation is a big thing. Obviously, there's no point having a website if you've got no way to actually monetize that, and creating products is a great way. Even sort of offline stuff too. Actually, sort of going offline to generate traffic.
Such as?
Magazines, getting articles in magazines. So taking guest posting and guest blogging to sort of the next level and going offline is a great way of doing that. There's heaps of stuff. We can sort of sit here for an hour and keep going. It's probably a good start.
What about articles? We don't have articles on here.
Article marketing, yeah, absolutely. Article marketing is another great way to drive traffic regularly to your site. Guest posting, press releases. I just almost like taking content into syndicating. So there's article marketing. There's also things like getting the PDFs syndicated on things like scribe.com and stuff like that. So it's like article marketing, but it's just another platform to sort of get PDF distribution. Is another sort of way to get backlinks and drive traffic to a site. What else have we got? We've got sort of blog posts, forum marketing. That's something, again, sort of be market leadership. There's a whole bunch of market leadership activities. So forum marketing is one thing. So, being regularly active in a forum, Facebook and Twitter, obviously that's social media. How can we forget social media? So, being regular on your Facebook page and posting stuff there regularly, and being active on Twitter and posting there is a huge thing to sort of manage that conversation and things like that. So
that's pretty impressive. Anything else that we're missing right now?
Look, there's plenty of stuff. That's enough to keep someone busy for a month.
Right.
To sort of do that sort of stuff.
And one of the things that you're going to talk about later, but it's something that I was really excited about the very first time that we spoke.
Yep.
And that was that your belief, which I totally agree with, but never really thought about it until you kind of broke it down, is that you have all this and it's all pointing to your website and you have products there for sale.
Yep.
But like, what if you had numerous ones of these?
Absolutely.
Right? So that it wasn't just one place that all this traffic and all these links and all this marketing was going to, but it was actually numerous ones, all with the same amount of stuff pointing to. So ultimately, you weren't selling whatever you sell, right? Whatever you market in one place, but in 10 places,
absolutely,
right? And how much of a difference that would make. And then the circles around each one of those, and all of a sudden, you start doing that, and it's 10 times more complicated than even the U diagram, which I told people to avoid because I just didn't see a way that people could get it all done. So they needed to be much more strategic and just
pull back
picking a few things, right? But what you've added to the mix is that you can be strategic and you can get it all done and you can cut your time down to a fraction. And while it's certainly amazing how much actually got done, what is more mind-blowing to me than anything else is how little you had to do to get all those things done. Because if you had to work like a maniac and you were just jumping around doing 500 things with your head cut off, that really wouldn't be that impressive. No. But this idea of doing this one thing, well, why don't you talk about it for just a second?
I refer to it as doing the core element and then having a system in place to give you syndication and leverage and repurposing to get everything else out there with you only doing one core input.
And I want everyone to really understand that. Imagine starting your day where you're doing one thing that you're good at, one thing that you enjoy, one thing that when you do it, you're proud of it. And that one thing gets turned into everything else. So your work is done. You do the one thing that you enjoy. The one thing, right? And then by process, by system, it automatically gets turned out to the world in a way that is effective, in a way that grows your business. And so you're working so much less. You're doing those things you enjoy. And yet, at the same time, you're making more than ever before. Your results are growing and growing, stacking upon each other, gaining momentum, and your business grows, your profits grow, and ultimately, the money you make multiplies time after time after time because you're putting out into the world high value stuff, but what you're doing is that one thing that you enjoy most. If we can go back to this for a second, I'm going to rip this down and hopefully we won't have to put it back up. Let's just talk about the podcast for just for a second here so that we can kind of give people just a better understanding of exactly what is going on, right? So, okay, cool. So you recorded the podcast here, right? You spent a half an hour, it was pretty casual. And now that podcast was it already turned into a YouTube video?
So the first thing is it's getting edited up.
Right.
So it's being edited into an actual podcast itself.
So it's already there.
It's already there right now.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it was edited and it was, so you recorded it. We're going to assume that, okay, it's the podcast.
Yep. So it's in iTunes.
Right. Yep. And that's in iTunes. And then it's also
on my blog. So the actual podcast has a website itself. So it's actually on the website as a blog post people can find from a search engine perspective. So that's a big thing.
Okay.
Yep. We also have a transcript created. So that's going to be created off the back of this. That transcript will not only sit on the blog as well, but that transcript as a PDF can get submitted to Scribed, which is a PDF distribution platform. So people who go to Scribe to read information and learn stuff will find a transcript on that topic. We also have a video created. So the actual raw audio format or file of the podcast is turned into a video, which will be put onto YouTube. So that's
it won't only be put on YouTube,
that's
though, right? That's like this, right?
Exactly.
So like a video, right?
So
and then that video can be put on Vimeo,
Vidler, Dailymotion.
Right. So like we could go here and say YouTube, and there were some questions about. There were some questions about duplicate content, and I don't know if you know the answer to that, but from my perspective, there's a reason to do stuff for links,
yep.
right? But there's also a reason to do stuff to be there so that people can find you.
See, this is I'm not an SEO guy.
Neither am I.
This is my belief, and this is my frustration with SEO. Backlinking and SEO, in my opinion, should be a byproduct of solid marketing.
Yeah.
I think doing SEO for SEO's sake may have worked historically, but with Google algorithm changes and social media, it's so much more about sharing and stuff like that is driving the algorithm these days. And I think that is, if you produce good content, that comes as a byproduct.
And I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And it's silly to think you're going to outsmart Google. I mean, Overstock.com, a $350 million company, yep. lost all of their top 3 rankings like back in February of this year because they got caught buying EDU links.
Yep.
Right? Like, we're talking about a $350 million company. If it can happen to a $350 million company, it can happen to you. And if it happens to you, good luck trying to get someone at Google on the phone to explain what happened and to get anything different. So anyway, okay, so we did all this. Now, will it be turned into an article?
It'll be turned into an article. So what will happen is a team will create an article, which can actually be a standalone blog post on my actual website.
So that'll then turn into a blog post?
Yep, and then it can be a guest blog post.
It can be a guest blog post?
It can be a magazine article. Now, when it comes to the article sort of stuff, this is where I start considering actually duplicate content as a potential issue, is that I'll actually get the article created in 3 or 4 different times, so actually rewritten 3 or 4 different times. So the blog post is different to the guest post, but it's not me doing it.
And it's not spun.
And it's not spun. No, it's not spun
at all. It's not like weird language, it makes no sense, and now you look like you're illiterate, and that doesn't build your brand.
So it's high quality, engaging content, but I've only done one thing, that was a podcast. But I've now got a blog post, a guest post, and a magazine article off that, from me only doing one core piece of input.
And it's not only that though, because I still believe that even if you didn't get search engine credit for each of those things, you're still in places where you are going to be found. Like
exactly.
When you do a guest blog post, if you're on a blog that actually gets traffic, then you're going to be exposed to a new audience. And so that's what you should be focused on. Let the internet marketing side of things kind of take care of themselves by just doing great things.
Exactly.
So what else happens? Is there
a press release?
We have a press release?
Yeah. So what we actually do as well is we actually announce every podcast release as a press release. We do that through Vocus, which is the owners of PR Web. Super cheap. I guess in terms of budget, people go, oh, budget, and we'll touch on budget in a moment. But for those who don't know, there's actually a subscription service you can subscribe to if you're doing this regularly. A few grand a year, which works out to be less than $10 a day. You can send press releases out through PR Web. So, you do a press release for less than $10 on PR Web. So that press release, $5 on Fiverr gets it
written. Which is like an amazing tip, because when he was talking about this before we did the live stream today, I was like, let's get on that, because I never knew that you could get it that cheap.
So the press release we send out through PR Web is created on Fiverr for $5. So it's a $5 press release, then $10 to get it out there. So $15 gets a press release announcing the podcast, positions me as an expert, and gets tons of backlinks pointing to that podcast on the blog. So that's the SEO relevance there as well, is that there's a lot of traffic driving to the actual podcast webpage now.
Now, at some way or shape or form, it's getting on Facebook, right?
Yep. So obviously, we're sharing Facebook, Twitter, all the social media stuff is happening off the back of the blog post. So when we do a blog post, that feeds straight through to my Facebook and Twitter account, announcing stuff automatically without me doing anything, because there's simple applications and tools that do that for me.
Pete got to do what he enjoyed doing, which is talking to Dom.
Yep.
Right? About marketing. They probably do that for free, like when there's not even a business purpose, right?
Yep.
They talk shop, right? So Pete got to talk shop for half an hour, and then look at all the stuff that is happening for his business while he's off doing other things, right? And this is the concept that we're sharing here, and we're not even really, this article can be syndicated in more places, the video can be syndicated in more places, you can take that transcript and do more things with it, right? That transcript can be cut up, and anything that, at least for me, like, I find that the most intelligent, smartest things I say are sometimes out of the blue. I have no idea where they came from, and I'm like, oh my God, like, we got to capture that, right? And, it's like I did this Q&A call like about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and some of the answers just blew me away, and I was like, I have no idea where those answers came from.
I'm in the zone today.
Yeah, I ran into Kat, and I was like, we got to figure out how to use that Q&A call in as many places as possible and cut it up, because, like, I don't know, like, that I'm not that smart, right? Like, and somehow, like, something challenged me that day. So, this is such a great way of representing what's going on here. That this one thing that he enjoys doing, he does. It takes him a half an hour, and then look at all the stuff that's happening for his business. And the alternative is what most people experience, which is like they think about doing the podcast. It seems like a lot of work, and they're not really going to get much done. So the podcast might be like half done. And because it's not done, right? Like, nothing happens here, nothing happens here, and nothing happens here, right? Or they spend their entire day, they get the podcast done, and maybe they get it out to, iTunes.
But then they have to write a blog post. They go off and actually write a brand new blog post and invest 2 hours writing that.
And that's it, right? Like, so who wants to do that? Like, no wonder you're procrastinating. No wonder you don't want to, like, even think about your business, and no wonder, like, you're not getting the results you want, because there's a big difference between this and that, and that's the point.
You're right. So many people I speak with just don't want to get started because their to-do list is so overwhelming, and even if they do start, they feel like it's never going to end.
Yeah, and I mean, who wants to start anything if there's no end in sight, and that end is what needs to happen in order for you to make money, right? So whether it's a to-do list that never ends, whether it's uncertainty that these are the tasks that I should be doing that are actually going to make me money, grow my business, or whether it's that I know I'm doing certain things I probably shouldn't be doing, or things that are very difficult for me, I don't know how to do them, and so I might spend 2 or 3 hours doing something with no payoff whatsoever, right? All this friction is so draining on the entrepreneur, and it's no wonder why so many people are struggling or not starting.
And I think the beautiful thing from the live stream was how many people actually got to take action straight away. There was actually stuff I shared that they could actually go and implement, and we got so many videos on YouTube within 24 hours of people actually taking action and making progress they hadn't made before.
Well, I think that shows really two things. One, that there's this overwhelming demand for this, right? People get it. They understand that they need a system or a process to leverage what it is they're good at and not try and learn 150 new things to get an outcome. And then the other thing is just how inspiring that live stream was, because literally you did your 6-hour thing and then immediately some people took action, and for those people it could have been 3 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and yet they saw this better way of doing things, and it was a light clicked on for them. They're like, oh my God, you mean that this to-do list that never ends could be shortened to one task, and it happens to be my favorite task, and all I need to do is that, and I'm going to get the outcomes I want, and I can cross everything off my to-do list? I'm down for that. And so they immediately jumped into work.
And that was so cool to see.
Hey guys, this is Darren Crawford from Melbourne Beach, Florida. Wanted to say the live stream was awesome, and I wanted to share just one of the things I took away from what Pete said. The first thing I have is using his forum stuff, but not on other people's forums, on an actual forum that I have. Got about 150 plus members, hundreds of posts. One of the things I had to do every day was go in there, read all the posts, see what questions there were so that I could go and hammer out an answer. Part of the issue was that, there's a lot of attaboys and that you had to go read through. So what I had yesterday, I had my assistant go and read through them all and bring back all those links, and then I was able to just use the audio, record it, have her transcribe it, and post them back for me. It saves me probably 10 or 15 minutes a day. A lot of times I would just skip it because there's only a couple posts. I'd just blow it off, and then of course it would pile up. So that 10 or 15 minutes a day, while it doesn't seem like much, adds up to an hour and a half a week, which my kids will love back. Now they can have some more daddy time. And we, cost us like $5. So thanks for this tip. That alone is making my family happy, and I look forward to all the other awesome stuff that I'm going to start implementing. Again, Darren Crawford from Melbourne Beach. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, Pete and Rich, my name's Cindy Ianson. I'm sitting here in Santa Barbara, California at about 11 o'clock at night, talking quite quietly because my children are sleeping. Your question is, what did I learn from Profit Hacks? Well, you're kind of looking at it. What I learned was that we can all sit back and do nothing, or we can all step up and take action. And I've been wanting to write a book on Kindle and put it on Amazon on Kindle, put it off and put it off. And I knew that if I created a webinar, I could then make that into a book. And what I realized through Profit Hacks is that a couple things. One, I could do the webinar and I could do it rather quickly, and then I could have it then transcribed. I could then from there have it transcribed. I could have it written into articles. I could have it created into a podcast. I can create a product from it. I can then have it edited and made into a book and then uploaded onto Amazon and or iBooks. To me, that 6 hours was really kind of life-changing because it opened my eyes to what can be done in a very, very short period of time with just sitting down, doing it, and applying yourself, and then utilizing the outsourcing opportunities that are out there, which are actually pretty inexpensive. So I want to thank you both, and I appreciate all you've done.
So after the live presentation with Pete and Rich, I stuck it in my mind the question, what is it that I'm doing that provides the true value to my business? And what are the other things that don't really do that? So my business is consulting with local businesses on their web presence. Now, I had a meeting with a client today, and this was, their ideas and my ideas and possibly putting together a project proposal, basically. So usually that entails me writing up the project proposal, putting together design mock-ups, screenshots, and then when they approve it, then sending it to a developer. So, but after the meeting, I'm sitting down, getting ready to put this together, and I realize it's already done. All of the value that I've given has been done because I've met with the client, we had our discussion, we came to a conclusion, all the notes are on the page. What next? Well, all I need to do is record the notes, maybe with some video, a little design mock-up, just kind of going over the video. So this is what I did. So I recorded a little video on screen, going over the notes and going over the changes that my client would like to make, and I just sent that to my guy. I got a one-person team right now, and he's putting together a proposal and the design mock-up. What used to take me probably a couple hours of tedium just took me 7 minutes. Boom. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Pete Williams and Rich Schefren, for the webinar we had the other night or the other morning. It was actually early hours of the morning for me. I was in Australia and well worth staying up for. I got heaps of tips, thank you very much, but the one main tip that I did get was that I don't even need to do my own audios for books anymore. We're a registered training organisation and we're 12 new courses, and we do weekly workbooks for each one, so 48 workbooks in most courses, so it's about 600 new workbooks and new audios that I'm responsible for. The workbooks aren't a problem, they're easy to delegate, but the audios were going to be a big problem for me, and I was just caught up with a lot of overwhelm and all of a sudden I realised I don't need to do them. So before I even got out of bed the next morning, I went to Odesk, hired an audio guy. The next thing I'm going to do is get a video guy as soon as I've finished uploading this one, and I have got a PA to upload it for me as well, or I'm looking around to working a system where I can just give it to the audio guy. He can forward it on to the video guy and forward it on to a PA, and all of a sudden I'll have all this work done for me. So that's absolutely amazing. Saved me a lot of work. It takes 2 to 3 hours to do the video for a workbook, to summarise it, do the PowerPoint, and fix it all up, and that's just saved me a couple of thousand hours worth of work. Thank you very much.
And those were just the results from people on the live stream getting a taste of what Profit Hacks is really, right? And later on, we're going to be sending out a video that shows the phenomenal results, the massive results, and really the change of the whole interaction with work. So it's not just the results, it's also how the work's getting done for those clients of mine that started the process 6 weeks earlier and have gotten to dive into Profit Hacks to get the real juicy stuff and really apply it to their business and their life.
As I've been so proud of the results I've gotten. It's been such a good story and feeling, and it's been great.
So stay tuned. We'll be sending out another video soon on just that.